original, there's some things that we've been watching on TV, and some things that have been playing out for us that I think are so important for us. As the world looks to God and as the world looks to what's really important. Do y'all remember that game a few weeks ago? Cincinnati is playing the Bills, and this guy makes this routine tackle, and all at once he makes a tackle, he gets up, and then he just falls back. And the whole place got silent. Nobody knew how serious all that was. That young man lay there, dying on that field. Those football players forgot about everything. They forgot about the game. They forgot about everything but their freedom. And when we think about DeMar Hamlin, and we think about the lessons that have been learned from that, and the lessons that those players learned. You know, I remember back in, I think it was 87, 88, the World Series. It was the Bay World Series, and the Oakland A's played the San Francisco Giants. And everybody was waiting on the game to start, and all at once everything got quiet, and everything started shaking, and there was a great earthquake. And the players had all their wives. I don't know how soon this happened, but you could see those players, those wives, and those kids there in their arms in the middle of the infield, so the stadium wouldn't fall on them. You know, nobody knew what was going to happen. And it didn't matter that it was the first game of the World Series anymore. What mattered was survival. What mattered was the people that I live with, I live for. What matters is my family. What matters is my friends. You see, that baseball game don't mean anything else. Such was the case of that football game. Everybody on that field, everybody that was watching that game realized that the important thing was life. The important thing was what we experienced together in our friendship with one another. And in the case of this game, the teammate that was dead there laying on that field. Of course, y'all know the story. They backed the ambulance up there, and all the folks there on the sidelines, the medical people, were working with that young man and trying to get that heartbeat back. And those players forgot about everything, and all of them went on the knee. And they all were in a circle. Y'all remember that? They were all in a circle, or either on the sideline of the circle, or circling this man, begging God and praying to God that his life might be spared. We have a picture of DeMar Hamlin there. He's a very young man. Y'all think about it. This man's got his whole life ahead of him. Probably, I don't know what the minimum is for pro football. I think it's $700,000, $800,000 a year for baseball. It should be about the same thing. But this man is probably making $1 million a year at least. He's doing pretty good, you know. And probably more than likely, he's kind of like Jesus' followers. You know, they were locked into their lives, you know. And this guy's got it going good. Everything's going good. He thinks he's got probably 15 years left of his life, you know, of a good life to live and to make a whole lot of money. But all at once, just in an instance, his life leaves him. And all his friends are beside him and they're praying for him. Well, it meant a lot. I've asked Wesley also, you can look at this on Fox News, and I'm just going to read a little bit about this to you, of how this affected his quarterback, who is a fantastic quarterback. I don't know if he's all pro or not, but he's a great quarterback. And his name is Josh Allen. I'm going to skip through this article some, but y'all can read it. It'll be on the board. For Josh Allen, every time he heard that Hamlin's status was improving, it was a reminder that faith is strong. Because they took him, and y'all, this game was important because it was to decide how the playoffs would turn out. And which one of these teams would be seeded higher than the other. Which one would be the home team. This game was very important, and all at once it's not important anymore. It's just thrown away. And this is what this great quarterback is talking about. He said, it was kind of a spiritual awakening for me, he said. Allen said on a podcast, I know for a lot of other people that maybe didn't have the strongest belief or wasn't the biggest or strongest Christian followers. Sometimes sports gives us wild coincidences when we need him. The day after Hamlin's collapse, Compton scored an overtime winner, his third goal of the night, exactly 3 minutes in overtime. And this is what they're drifting into these things. This had to do with hockey. Well then, it didn't stop there. In the Bills game on Sunday, Hines ran back the opening kickoff for a touchdown, sending the Orchard Park, New York faithful into a frenzy. But what's even crazier, it had been, you guessed it, 3 years since a kickoff had been run back for the Buffalo Bills. It was the first play of the game. I don't know if any of y'all saw that or not. I was sitting in Leeds with my kids, and there's a group of Buffalo fans that go in there. You can't hear anything from them. They're screaming and hollering. You know, they're sitting at the football game, and everybody went crazy. And I'm looking around, what's going on? What's going on? The first play, this man's laying up in the hospital. His buddies have been praying for him. The whole nation has been praying for him. And the opening kickoff is run back for a touchdown. And everybody is just overwhelmed with all these things that are happening, all the way that their hearts are being moved. And I'm not saying, y'all, that this necessarily is a God thing, but it might be. But for these guys, it meant so much to them. This is what Josh Allen goes on to say. He said, I'll be the first to admit I haven't been the most devoted Christ follower in my life. I've had my different beliefs and thoughts and ideas and stuff like that. But something got a hold of me there. And it was extremely powerful. That you know, a powerful thing that I couldn't deny. It was just spiritual, he goes on to say. I was going around, it's something I was going around with my teammates saying, God is real. Allen said at the time, you can't draw that one up. Write that one down any better. And I was just told it's been 3 years since that kickoff return was done. So I'll quit reading from that. Made a difference in his life. But let me tell you what DeMar Hamlin said. I want y'all to pay attention to this because I want to end this. I hope that I can end this time like this, y'all. Y'all will tell that I'm not really organized very well, but this is a developing sermon in my mind, okay? And y'all getting the first. I don't think you're getting the fruit, but you're getting the first of it, okay? This is the day that he's going home now. He's been in a coma. You know, they induced that he's been on oxygen. I mean, the guy's been laying on his back in the hospital. Everybody's been attending to him, and he woke up. And he said, I'm heading off to Buffalo today with a lot of love in my heart. Watching the world come together around me on Sunday was truly amazing. The same love you all have shown me, listen to this, is the same love that I plan to put in the world from now on. You see what's going on in my heart right now is bigger. Well, I don't know how large it is. The last time I checked, he's got a kid's. Some of y'all can help me with some of these things, but he's got a special site for kids. And he had already had this before. But this thing had grown to $8 million of people giving to this. And what he decided to do, I'm talking about DeMar Hamlin, he decided to help the kids, but also he was going to help the first responders. So you see, all this has just been a blessing for everybody that really hasn't thought about God, and really hadn't thought about the goodness, really hadn't thought about the preciousness of life. And the whole world right now has come together in a sense to see how precious life is and to see what's really important. What's really important is us. It's our friends. It's what we can do for each other. Let's face it, y'all. What did the Lord put us here to do? He put us here to look after one another, to help one another. We're His beings. We're His creation. It don't matter how great a football player is. He's still a person. And that was proven on that night as that young man lay on the side of the football field dead. The game is canceled because it's not important anymore. And it's all about DeMar Hamlin and his life. I want you to hold on to that. And I want you to hold on to that, and we'll come back to that. But I want you to think about about what the Lord has done for us and what the mission is and what the motivation of the mission is. I want to start with an old story from Mark 5th chapter, verses 1 through 20. Mark 5, 1 through 20. This is one of my favorite stories. I'm not sure, I think I've referred to this on here, but I don't think I've preached a full sermon on it, and I won't tonight either, but this has always moved me, this story. Mark 5, 1 to 20. Then Jesus came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gadarenes. And when he had come out of the boat, immediately there met him a man out of the tombs with an unclean spirit. Well, he had more than one unclean spirit, who had his dwelling among the tombs, and no one could bind him even with chains, because he had often been bound with the shackles and chains, and the chains had been pulled apart by him, and the shackles broken into pieces. Neither could anyone tame him. I ain't messing with that man. I'll tell you, I've seen some weird stuff on my travels. The last time I was in San Francisco, I've seen some people that I don't want to get close to. This is a guy right here. Hey, you don't want to get close to him. You don't want to mess with him. Everybody around there knew how rough he was. Wasn't nobody going to touch him. I mean, let's face it, the man lives in the cemetery. The man lives amongst the tombs. They try to tie him up. They try to subdue him. They can't do it. Think about the strength that he must have because of that. Always, day and night, verse 5. He was in the mountains and in the tombs, crying out and cutting himself. When he saw Jesus from afar off, he ran and worshipped him, and he cried out with a loud voice, and he said, "What have I to do with you, Jesus of the Most High God? I implore you, by God, that you do not torment me." And he said to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." Then he asked him, "What's your name?" And he answered, saying, "My name is Legion, for we are many." Also he begged him earnestly that he would not send him out into the country. And we know the story about the swine, and it's just such a weird story, but that those swine, those spirits had rather be in those swine than be in the presence of God. They couldn't stand it. They were in the presence of Jesus. Just throw us on into the pigs, and we'll just get out of Dodge. Think about the power that's in Jesus and what it means when he changes our life and how he can do that. Verse 16. And those who saw it told them how it happened to him, who had been demon-possessed, and about the swine. Then they began to plead with Jesus to depart from their region. I mean, please, we can't stand anymore. And when he got out of the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. Do y'all remember when you first became a Christian? I have to go back a long time. 45 years. I still remember when I did that. I remember my conviction. I remember how that moved. This man is moved. I mean, Jesus has freed him from things that he didn't want to get rid of. He didn't know he needed to get rid of. But Jesus got him out of it. Those demons are gone, and now he's his own person. He's like one of us. You know, he's in control of himself. I want to be with Jesus too, if he'd done that for me, wouldn't you? I mean, I want to be right by his side. I want to say, "Hey, I want to be one of your disciples. Can I just hang out with you for the rest of my life?" You see, the man's life had been changed. It was important. Our lives, when we became Christians, had been changed. It became important. And I dare say, tomorrow, 5 years from now, may not think about what he said with such conviction as he said it the day that he was leaving the hospital. Why? Because 5 years are going on now. Time's going on. And things have just got lax. And we've just accepted those things. Well, it just happened and moved on. And we don't, maybe perhaps after 5 years, we don't have an appreciation for the way that we've been spared. I think if you ask anybody in the world, they would say that man was saved by prayer. There's a lot of people been praying. The Bible says the prayer of the righteous availeth much. There was a lot of people praying for that man, and things changed for him. And now that things have changed, he realizes something happened big in his life, and his life has been spared. And he says, "I'm going to go out now, and I'm going to do it for everybody else. I'm going to help. I'm going to do what God, through his goodness, wants me to do in my life." He's motivated. He's ready to move into that. Verse 18. When he got into the boat, he who had been demon-possessed begged him that he might be with him. Now we pick up at verse 19. However, Jesus did not permit him, but he said to him, y'all, this is a great vision. But he said to him, go home to your friends tomorrow. That's what you said you're going to do. Go home to your friends. Tell them what great things that the Lord has done for you and how he has had passion on you. No, don't hang out with me. I know that your life will change and everything, but what's important is to go to these 10 cities that it said of him, and you go tell them about what I've done. And when they first see you, they're not going to believe it because you're totally different. He's not going to be nasty and filthy and all cut up and everything anymore. He's going to be a clean man. You can tell when somebody's living good, can't you? When somebody's living right. He's going to be a different person. He's going to go in and people are going to see the change in him. And his job is to show people the change. His job is to tell people the change. His job is to live the change. Our job is the same, by the way. And he departed. And he began claiming to Caiaphas all that Jesus had done for him. And they all marveled. His life would change because he had met something that was greater than him. Football is important for us, isn't it? But when it comes down to it, that game is not as important as the game of life, the game of living, the game of helping each other. The world's eyes, in the football sense, has been opened. Ours needs to be open every day. We come together to encourage one another. I think about some of the changes that Jesus made in people's lives. Peter, you're not ready yet to preach the gospel message. Well, what do you need to hear, Peter? Feed my sheep, Peter. Feed my sheep, Peter. Feed my sheep, Peter. Now, y'all look into Luke, the 24th chapter with me. That sounds awful demanding. Would y'all look at Luke 24 with me? Now, I want y'all to think about what these guys have just witnessed in this last book. Resurrection of Christ. We've heard about it, but we're not going to believe it until we see it. Thomas, the doubting Thomas. He's come to Peter, because you remember when I preached that sermon on Peter, I think it's very significant. The Bible said when the angel was there, the angel tells the women, he said, go tell the disciples and Peter. So Peter's singled out. This is important for Peter. Peter's one of the apostles. He's witnessing it. Jesus is at the mountain. He's about to ascend into heaven. Can you imagine what Jesus must have expressed to them when the Bible says that he opened up the scriptures and he told how he fulfilled the Old Testament. And he explained to them more and more what their mission would be and how they needed to carry on, what they needed to do. And can you imagine that how relieved they were because didn't they all leave the cross but John? All of them ran to the cross. But now Jesus is back and he's teaching them. And all the things that he said are true. And they killed him, but he's alive again. And my life is totally changed. What do I need to do, Lord, to carry this thing on? To do your will, to show who you are to others. What do you want me to do? Because my life has been given to me by you. And they're on that mountain with him. Can you imagine how they must have felt when they saw him go up into heaven? Can you imagine the determination in their mind? We're going to see after this mission. You're not going to stop me. You know, it said of Thomas that he died on a freighter going to India. All those guys died terrible deaths except the Apostle John. But they were willing to do it. Why? Because they were going to give it everything they got because they understood that they had been brought back. That they had been revived. That they had been made new. And now they're not that old physical man, but now there's that new spiritual what he does to this body. It doesn't matter if you nail this body. It doesn't matter if you have a heart attack and this body dies. What matters is where that spirit's at with God. And these guys are witnessing this, and they're seeing Jesus come back, and all these things have changed in their life. And they look up into heaven, they see him ascend up into heaven. And what did Jesus tell them to do? And he led them as far as Bethany, and he lifted up his hand and he blessed them. Now it came to pass while he blessed them that he was parted from them and carried up into heaven. And they worshipped him. And they returned to Jerusalem with great joy, and were continually in the temple, praising and blessing God. And the writer says, amen. So you see, the life of Jesus calls us to, it calls us special attention to be given, because he has brought us from death to life. Damar Hamlin has been brought from death to life in the same sense, not in the sense of spiritual, but now he's living. He understands what his mission in life is. It's not about getting rich. It's not about having things anymore. It's not about having a drug if you want. It's not about having all those things that money about. What matters is you matter. That's the mission. You give somebody their life back, they lose their life, they come back. The mission is to give to others. He's thinking about all those that had a part of saving him in this life. He's thinking about all those friends that as he goes back and he'll look at that film now, can you imagine how he would feel to see all those big old players on their knees? Some of them bowed over in prayer, praying to God, please God to save me. Please God to save me. And it's the same way with us, y'all. We were lost, but now we're found. And we forget about what our mission is. Our mission is about the Lord. Our mission is about evangelism. Our mission is about sharing. Our mission is about sharing with somebody what's in your heart and why things are different for you. And why you hold God up in such esteem. And the mission is similar for us. Y'all flip over a few books over to the 28th chapter of Matthew. Sorry, y'all got a little line there. Matthew 28. 18 to 20. Y'all know what is the Great Commission. And Jesus came and spoke to him, saying, all authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go. Your life's been given back to you, Father. I turned my back on my friend, but now he says it's okay and I love you, but this is the way to make it up. Shouldn't you be more committed to me? Damar Hamlin is more committed to his life. Why? Because it's been given back to him. And he realizes what he had and how important it is. And hopefully, I can't judge that man's heart as far as his relationship with the Lord right now, but I can say this, that his relationship should be where he is ready to meet the Lord when he comes back, and that's all that's important anyway. Because you have this faith, because you should have this emotion, it should excite you. It excited that man that was living in the tomb. It excited Peter. It excited all the apostles because they got a second chance, y'all. They realized what's important in life. And what's important for us as Christians is to be with Jesus. It's all that matters. And it matters about my family, and I love my wife, and I love my kids, and I'm going to do everything I can for them to get there. I love my brethren. I come here and I worship for them all the time. I just want us to get there. That's the mission of the church, is that we all get to heaven together. And that we all realize the price that the Lord has paid for each one of us. Go, therefore. Y'all listen. You've heard it all your life. You've heard it ever since you became a Christian. Here's your mission in life. Go, therefore, and make disciples out of all the nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, in the name of the Son, in the name of the Holy Spirit. And when you do that, teach them to observe all things that I have commanded you. We're reading from this word tonight. And lo, I am with you always. say 5 years from now, Lamar Hamlin just starts making fun of all this stuff that's happening. His life has been spared. He's been drawn, and everybody's close, and people have quit telling the story in 5 years. I'm just excited. How does he stay motivated to remember that? It's the same instruction that the Lord has for us. Be motivated to love and to good works. How do I stay faithful? How do I stay in appreciation of that? You know, people make fun of us. A lot of people in the religious world, they make fun of us because we observe the Lord's Supper every Sunday. Well, it'll get stale, it'll get old. Well, the whole thing will get stale and old if that will. My whole life centers around that. My whole worship on Sunday centers around that, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And when I think of that every Sunday, what does it do? It reminds me of what I have in me. It reminds me that He paid the price for me. He saved me. He got my heart to pumping again. And He promised me that one day that I'd stand before Him and that He would open this and that He would judge me. And He left me this book so that I would have my guide. But this book is so much more than just reading a sentence and reading a paragraph. It's so much more than that. But sometimes do we not treat it like that? Like that's all it is. I think all the time about, and especially if I'm thinking about something like this. You think about the church in Ephesus, 2nd chapter of Revelation, in the book of Ephesians. What a great church. These guys were doing it, man. And then there's a generation away from it, and Jesus, through the Spirit, expresses to them what He sees is wrong. And He said, I love y'all because y'all hold for the truth. I love y'all because y'all are people of the Word. I love y'all because you won't put up with the Nicolaitans. I love it. But I got this against y'all. Y'all are doing it. You're practicing that part of it. You're getting the word straight to people. You're correcting people when they need to be. But I got this against you. You've lost your first love. And brethren, if we're failing as a Christian, if we're weak as a Christian, I guarantee you it's because of that. Because we've forgotten about the price that's been paid. We forgot about that Jesus has brought us back to life. And now it's just got to stay before us. And now we're just going through the motions. And this rich church at Ephesus, if they can do it, it can happen to me too. The challenge to me from seeing things like this, from seeing changes in people's lives, from seeing people come to the understanding, like Josh Allen did, that there is a God. Think about how much opportunity that gives you, or for somebody that hasn't expressed that, to say that there is a God. What kind of opportunity does that give? Wow. It's endless. And it's beautiful too, because the person, a lot of times, I call them good soul when you're studying with somebody and they tell you they don't have any background, they don't know anything about the Bible. I love that. Because I ain't got to jump all those hoops of things that they've been taught in there. And I can go straight to the Word, and then they can accept it with their faith, and we can move on instead of me trying to talk about some of the stuff that they believe that's just not good. But Jesus has set those things forth, and He has given us opportunity. And what I'm trying to tell y'all is, I think sometimes we can squander those opportunities because we're not excited anymore. We still don't feel in our hearts what we felt when we started this game. I had a bad choice of words when we started this walk. Bad. Y'all think about that. Old Harold Kelley's stuff here tonight, encouraging y'all. Let's take this story. Let's see how this man has been changed before something happened in life. That he came to the realization he had everything. Still has everything. But he's got more now. Because now he has a spiritual relationship. Now he understands what love is. Now he understands when he gets a grip on that. I'm talking to y'all as Christians too. When we get a grip on that we need to share it. That's the way it works. I get a grip on it, then I share it. And then the next person, he gets going, And then he shares it. And that's the way it works. You want to know why we're not growing as a church? I think that's why. I'm not talking about y'all necessarily. I'm talking about the church in general. You know, they need to be a change. People need to see that change in us. To me, when I read that story and I saw all that happen, and as that thing developed and developed, that's what I thought about. So I shared that with y'all tonight. Let me read it again. It's quote. I'm headed home to Buffalo today with a lot of love in my heart, watching the world come together around me on Sunday. It's truly amazing. The same love you all have shown me is in the world and more. This is bigger. Not I think those players around him will be a team solidified for years because of what they experienced together. And because that soldier was down and they got him down and they picked him up and they did everything they could to save his life and told him that he was more important than anything that's going on. There are $1 million at stake in all this. The TV time that you lost, it's not going to be fair to some teams because some teams are going to get cut out of the playoffs or some teams are going to have to play home. It don't matter. Tomorrow's living. We're living, y'all. And we're making that walk every day. And we come here tonight. Some of y'all might not even want to come. And some of you may have wished you had to come out. But let me say this. We keep meeting together. Somebody to page us and to remind us of what a precious thing we have and how much we're loved. And if we're loved, then we need to give it back. What the Lord expects us all to do. Just give it back. Show appreciation. We need to have that apostle experience. They let their friend down. Came back to life. He said, I believe you. Go on out. Go into the whole world. Just remember that and think about evangelism. Look, we got a song, I believe. This song, before they kicked me out of preaching school, this song was introduced one day when I was there with my first days there. I went there as a young man, just on fire. I'm ready to come. Send me to mission. Whatever, I'm just ready, just so eager. Swiftly we're turning life's daily pace. Swiftly the hour of changing to use. How are we using God's golden moments? Shall we reap glory? Shall we reap peace? Millions are broken without the gospel. Quickly they'll reach eternity's line. Shall we sit idly as they rush onward? Haste let us point, or let us hold up Christ and true life. Souls that are precious, souls that are dying. While we rejoice and see our sins are forgiven, did he not also die for these lost ones? Then let us point the way to hell into our hands. The gospel is given. Into our hands is given life. Haste, haste, hurry. Let us carry God's precious message. God in the air. Let's be challenged this summer. Let's be revived. Let's be renewed in our evangelism. Let's not give up on people. Let's not give up and get frustrated with ourselves when maybe we can't teach it like we think we need to, or somebody's not listening. Just keep on working at it. Let's just keep on working at it. And let's just keep on passing the message till the Lord comes back and calls us, and we all see it, and he calls us. I want to be a wonderful day. That's our job over here. Lamar Hamlin's got a different job now because things change and realize it ain't about money, it ain't about the world. It's about there is. Let's all sing this song as an invitation song. Go ahead.
Returning, washed gospel is given into our hands, is given the light. Thanks, let us carry God's precious message, guiding the erring back to the right. Millions are groping without the gospel. Quickly they'll reach eternity's night. Shall we sit idly as they rush onward? Haste, let us hold up Christ the true light. Into our hands the gospel is given. Into our hands is given the light. Haste, let us carry